Before his wedding to one of Milan's most beautiful socialites, the most feared mafia boss in northern Italy decided to test his fiancée in a way that would either confirm his hopes or shatter his world. He pretended to fly to Naples for business, but instead hid inside a secret surveillance room within his own villa, watching how she treated the most precious thing in his life when she thought no one was watching: his 7-year-old daughter. What he discovered through those cameras made his blood run cold. But it was a small black puppy's reaction, an animal's pure, untainted instinct, that exposed a truth he could no longer ignore. You won't believe what happened next. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another story that will leave you speechless. The surveillance room lay deep beneath the Bianchi villa, hidden behind a reinforced steel door in the wine cellar that no one knew about except Cosma and Marco. Blue-white light from 8 high-definition monitors washed over the face of the most powerful mafia boss in Milan, carving his weathered features into lines as sharp as broken glass. This was the place where Cosma had once sat for hours, tracking rivals, orchestrating the downfall of anyone who dared threaten the Bianchi empire. But today, his target wasn't an enemy across the city. It was the very woman who wore his engagement ring and slept in his bed. Cosma remembered what his oldest friend had told him before he carried out this plan. Marco had gripped his shoulder, his eyes dark with concern, and said, "Watch how she treats Marta when she thinks you're not there. A woman can fake love for you, Cosma. But children and animals, they always know the truth." He hadn't wanted to believe it. He tried to push aside the doubts that had been gnawing at him for weeks. But now, seated in the darkness of this underground room, surrounded by the hum of servers and the glow of surveillance feeds, he knew he had to face whatever came, no matter how much it might destroy him. The main screen showed the villa's front courtyard. Cosma watched Valentina standing beside his black Mercedes, elegant in her Chanel suit, that practiced smile still perfect on her lips after seeing him off to Naples. She waved gracefully, her mouth forming tender words he didn't need audio to recognize. "Come back to me soon, amore mio. Marta and I will be waiting." Words that, only minutes ago, he had still desperately wanted to believe were real. The Mercedes disappeared through the iron gates, and in that instant, Cosma witnessed something that made the air freeze in his lungs. The smile on Valentina's face vanished like a light being switched off. The warmth, the tenderness, the loving concern, all of it melted away as if it had never existed, replaced by an expression of cold irritation that twisted her beautiful features into something he'd never seen in the entire year they'd been together. She pulled her phone from her designer handbag and her fingers flew across the screen with angry precision. Cosma's intercept system captured the text message as it appeared. "Finally. 3 days without that man and his pathetic brat. Come over tonight. Not my love. Not Cosma. Just that man." As if he was nothing more than an obstacle to be endured. And Marta, his precious daughter, the child Valentina had promised to love as her own, reduced to pathetic brat. A chill slid down Cosma's spine like ice water. His hand moved instinctively toward the Beretta in his shoulder holster, but he forced himself to stillness. He'd survived 20 years in the Italian underworld by being patient, by being strategic, by never moving until he understood the full scope of the threat. A hasty reaction could destroy everything. He needed to see more. He needed to know everything. 20 minutes passed in suffocating silence. Cosma sat motionless as carved stone, his dark eyes never leaving the screens. His jaw was clenched so tight it ached, but he didn't move. Couldn't move. The surveillance feeds showed the empty courtyard, the quiet gardens, the villa's elegant halls where his daughter was somewhere inside, unprotected, unaware. And then a silver Alfa Romeo appeared at the gates. Cosma's heart turned to lead in his chest. He knew that car. Luca Caruso, his accountant, the man he'd trusted with the keys to his financial empire, the man he'd considered almost family. The gates opened automatically because Luca had the access codes, because Cosma had given them to him, and the car pulled smoothly into the courtyard. Something shattered inside Cosma's chest as he watched what happened next. Valentina didn't wait for Luca to reach the door. She ran to him, actually ran, her expensive heels clicking on the stone, and threw herself into his arms right there in the center of the courtyard. Their mouths found each other with desperate, hungry urgency, the kind of kiss that spoke of too many stolen moments, too much forced restraint, too long pretending. In the very courtyard where Cosma had proposed to his late wife Juliana 10 years ago. In the same spot where he'd gotten down on one knee for Valentina only 6 months earlier, believing her tears of joy had been real. In the place where she'd whispered, "This is the happiest moment of my life." It had all been lies. Every tear. Every smile. Every whispered promise in the dark. Cosma's hand closed around the arm of his chair so hard the leather creaked under the pressure. His knuckles went white. His jaw locked tight enough to crack teeth. And if anyone could have seen his eyes in that moment, those dark Italian eyes that had watched men die without flinching, they would have seen something terrifying. Not just anger. Not just betrayal. But a cold, calculating fury that promised destruction. But he didn't move. Didn't rush upstairs. Didn't reach for his gun. Not because he was weak. Not because he was afraid. But because he knew, the way a predator knows, that this was only the beginning. A con artist never has only one secret. A betrayal is never just about one lie. He needed to see everything before he struck. He needed to know the full scope of what they'd done, what they were planning, how deep the rot went. Cosma drew a slow, controlled breath, forcing the murderous rage down into the depths of his soul where he'd learned to lock away every emotion that might make him weak. It was a skill he'd honed over 20 years of blood and business, over countless betrayals, over the slow death of his ability to trust. He'd done it hundreds of times before. But this time was different. This time it wasn't just about him. This time his daughter was in that house with these vipers. He stared at the screen where Valentina and Luca were still wrapped around each other, and he whispered in a voice so cold the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Show me everything, Valentina. Show me who you really are. And then I'll show you what it means to threaten a Bianchi." After the kiss in the courtyard, Valentina and Luca moved inside to the sitting room and settled onto the deep burgundy sofa that Cosma had ordered from Florence as a gift for Valentina's birthday. Luca poured wine, the 1985 Burlo that Cosma had been saving for the wedding, the one his father gave him before he died, and handed a glass to Valentina before sitting beside her with an expression that mixed triumph and nervousness in equal measure. They toasted, laughing. Through the audio feed, every word came through crystal clear. "You confirmed the transfers?" Valentina asked, curling into the sofa. 2 million euros. Routed through Switzerland. Untraceable. Luca's voice was smooth, practiced. Valentina sipped the Barolo. "God, I can't wait to be done with this performance. Do you know how exhausting it is to pretend I care about his clingy, whining brat?" The word hit Cosma like a fist. "Brat. Is Marta. The boarding school is arranged? St. Catherine's in Switzerland. Cold, strict as a prison. They specialize in breaking difficult children." Luca laughed. 6 months and she'll be too afraid to speak. Perfect. Valentina stretched like a cat. "Once we're married and the brat is gone, we'll have everything." Cosma's vision blurred red. Movement on screen 2 caught his eye. Marta stood in the doorway in pink pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Valentina? Can I have some water?" Valentina's face transformed. The satisfaction twisted into something venomous. She shot to her feet. "What did I tell you about interrupting adults? Always being underfoot? Why can't you just disappear?" Marta stepped back. "I'm sorry. I don't want your apologies. I want you gone." Marta stumbled backward, her hand catching the side table. The wine glass toppled, crystal shattering, red spreading like blood. Valentina grabbed her arm, hard enough that Marta cried out, and dragged her across the room. She hauled open the coat closet, shoved Marta inside with enough force that the girl hit the back wall and slammed the door. The lock clicked. "Maybe a few hours in the dark will teach you to stay out of sight." Through the surveillance feed, Cosma heard his daughter's muffled sobs. Small fists pounding against the door. "Papa. Papa, please." His hand shook with rage so pure it felt like lightning. He lunged toward the door, every instinct screaming to run upstairs and tear Valentina apart. Marco's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Boss. Not yet. You need everything. All the evidence. If you move now, she walks. Cosma froze, his hand on the door handle. On the monitors, Valentina poured more wine. Luca pulled her onto his lap. They kissed while Marta wept in the darkness, her small voice calling for her papa. The stuffed rabbit had fallen when Valentina shoved her inside. It lay on the floor outside the closet door, one button eye staring at nothing. 2 hours crawled by. His daughter cried in that closet for 2 hours while her future stepmother drank his father's wine and planned her destruction. Cosma sat in his underground room, listening to every sob, watching his child suffer, his soul turning to ice and his heart hardening into something that would make Valentina wish she'd never touched his daughter. The house fell silent. Valentina and Luca disappeared upstairs. Cosma forced himself to look away back to the closet. Marta had stopped crying. The silence was worse. Then movement. A woman appeared in the hallway, slight and dark-haired. Sophia. The nanny. He'd hired her 8 months ago and couldn't recall speaking to her. She went straight to the closet. The lock clicked. Sophia dropped to her knees. Oh, Micah Pizzare. Little bird. Marta huddled in the corner, eyes glassy. Her small fingers were scraped raw, bloody from clawing at the door. She was somewhere beyond crying. Sophia didn't scold or question. She opened her arms. Marta fell into them like someone drowning reaching shore. Sophia lifted the child and carried her to the kitchen, murmuring soft Romanian words. Cosma activated the translation program. You are safe now, little bird. I won't let anyone hurt you. She settled Marta on the counter, warming milk with honey, testing the temperature. The whole time she sang, low and melodic. The translation scrolled, Sleep, little one. The moon watches over you. Bad things cannot find you here. Cosma's throat tightened. Sophia carried Marta to the bathroom and cleaned the blood from her fingers. She bandaged each one, kissing the child's knuckles. Marta just clung to Sophia's neck. You don't have to talk, Draga. Just breathe. Sophia carried her upstairs, not to Marta's room but to the small staff bedroom. She tucked the child into her own bed, smoothing back her curls. Will you stay? Marta's voice was hoarse. I'm not going anywhere. Sophia took Marta's bandaged hand. I'll be here in case the bad dreams come. I'll chase them away. I promise. Marta's eyes closed. Sophia stayed in that hard chair, holding a child's hand in the darkness. In the surveillance room, something cracked in Cosma's chest. Not anger. Shame. He'd hired this woman. Paid her salary. Passed her in the halls 100 times without seeing her. While he'd been courting Valentina, believing beautiful lies, Sophia had been protecting his daughter from truths he was too blind to see. How long had Marta been suffering? How long had he failed her? Cosma watched a woman he didn't know save the person he loved most, and understood what real devotion looked like. Not expensive wine or designer clothes or passionate declarations. This, staying awake in a hard chair, holding a frightened child's hand, keeping nightmares at bay. He pressed the intercom. Marco's voice came through. Boss? Find out everything about Sophia, Cosma said quietly. Everything. I need to know who this woman really is. Because someone who loved his daughter this fiercely deserved to be seen. Morning light filtered through the cameras. Cosma watched Marta slip out the kitchen door while Sophia was at the market, moving with the cautious silence of a child who'd learned to make herself invisible. She headed toward the back alley, hugging herself against the rain. Cosma switched camera angles. Marta stopped near the dumpster and knelt in the wet gravel, reaching for something. Then she stood, cradling a small black shape against her chest. A puppy. Barely weaned, soaked through, shivering. Marta's face transformed. The hollow-eyed child became someone else, focused, determined, alive. She wrapped her sweater around the tiny creature and hurried back inside. Cosma watched her smuggle it upstairs, hide it in her closet, make a nest from blankets. She whispered to it the way Sophia had whispered to her. It's okay. You're safe now. Nobody's going to hurt you. When Sophia returned and discovered them, she simply knelt beside Marta, examining the puppy with gentle hands. Together they dried it with towels, found milk and softened bread. The puppy ate desperately, tail thumping. Every creature deserves kindness, Sophia told the child. Even the forgotten ones. Especially the forgotten ones. Marta smiled, the first real smile Cosma had seen in months. That afternoon Valentina's voice echoed through the house. What is that smell? She stormed into Marta's room. Her eyes landed on the puppy. What the hell is that? Marta stepped in front of the puppy. I found him. He was all alone. It's vermin. Valentina's face twisted with disgust. Filthy street trash. She lunged forward, reaching for it. The reaction was instantaneous. The puppy yelped, not surprise but pure terror. It scrambled backward, tail tucked tight against its belly, eyes wild, entire body trembling. It cowered in the corner, whimpering as if Valentina were a predator. Valentina froze. It's just afraid, but her voice sounded wrong. Defensive. Sophia stepped into the room. Come here, Mike. The puppy's ears perked. Its tail emerged, tentative then wagging. It ran to Sophia, pressing against her ankles, licking her hand with desperate gratitude. Marta knelt. It's okay, baby. Come here. The puppy bounded to her, burrowing against her chest. The contrast was undeniable. Same puppy. 3 different people. With Valentina, terror. With Sophia, trust. With Marta, love. Valentina's face flushed. It's just a stupid animal. Animals always know, Sophia said quietly. They see what we pretend not to. In the surveillance room, Cosma sat very still. Marco's old words echoed. A woman can fake love for you, but children and animals always know the truth. The puppy wasn't lying. Couldn't lie. Its instinct was pure, untainted by manipulation. It had shown him in 30 seconds what he'd refused to see for 6 months. Cosma watched his daughter hold that trembling puppy, watched Sophia stand between them and Valentina like a shield, and felt the last fragment of doubt shatter. He reached for his phone. Marco, it's time. I want everything ready by tonight. On the monitor, the puppy licked Marta's tears away, tail wagging. Even the smallest creatures could see the truth. Why had it taken him so long? Cosma's phone rang. Valentina's name lit the screen. He forced warmth into his voice. Amore. Is everything okay? No. Your daughter brought a filthy street dog into the house. I need your permission to get rid of it. On the monitors, Marta huddled with the puppy, both trembling. I'm in meetings. Can this wait until I return? Silence. Fine. But you let that child run wild. She hung up. Valentina threw her phone onto the sofa, face twisted with rage. She stormed toward the stairs. Marco. She's moving. I see her. Valentina found Marta in the upstairs hallway, puppy padding beside her. You think you can disobey me? Bring that thing into my house. Papa said I could keep him if. The slap came fast. The sound cracked through the feed like a gunshot. Marta's head snapped sideways, body hitting the wall. She crumpled, hand pressed to her reddening cheek, tears streaming. The puppy barked frantically. Cosmo was on his feet, chair crashing. His hands shook with rage he'd never felt. This was his child. Sophia appeared, running. She saw Marta's face. Enough. She's just a child. Valentina's hand swung again. The slap caught Sophia across the face, snapping her head back. You're just the help. Know your place. If you say one word to Cosma, I'll have you deported back to that husband who put you in the hospital. Immigration would love to know you're undocumented. Sophia's face went pale. But she stepped between Valentina and Marta, forming a shield. Hit me again if you want. But you're not touching her. Valentina laughed cold. We'll see how brave you are on a plane back to Bucharest. She walked away, heels clicking. Sophia knelt and gathered Marta. The child sobbed while the puppy pressed against them, whimpering. In the surveillance room, Cosma stood frozen. His phone was in his hand. Marco. I saw it. Every second. I need everything on Valentina. Bank accounts, phone records, emails. And I need to know if Sophia is in danger. If that bastard in Romania is looking for her. Already on it. But boss, I pulled Valentina's phone records. She's been calling someone else. Who? Your lawyer. The one handling your will. The pieces clicked. Get everyone ready, Cosma said, voice like ice. Tomorrow night we end this. On the monitor, Sophia rocked Marta gently, singing that Romanian lullaby. Tomorrow night he would show Valentina what happened when you hurt his family. He watched Sophia hold his daughter, this woman who'd taken slaps meant to break her and turn them into shields. Undocumented, threatened, vulnerable. And still she hadn't moved. Cosma pressed another button. Marco. One more thing. Boss. I want Sophia's immigration status fixed. Citizenship, green card, whatever keeps her safe. Before tomorrow night. Consider it done. Cosma's eyes never left the screen. Sophia whispered something to Marta, too quiet for the microphones. He didn't need to hear it. He could see it in every gentle touch, every protective curve of her body around his daughter. Some people were worth protecting. And some needed to learn what happened when they mistook kindness for weakness. Night fell. The villa went quiet except for voices from the study. Cosma switched to camera 6. Valentina and Lucas sat at his father's desk. Lucas spread documents across the mahogany. Boarding school admission papers, dated 1 week after the wedding. Valentina swirled his whiskey. And the accounts? Systematic transfers over 24 months. Swiss banks, Cayman accounts. Untraceable. Luca pulled out another document. And this. Cosma zoomed in. A contract. Target, Cosma Bianchi. Timeline, 18 to 24 months. Method, staged mob hit. Payment, 500,000 euros. His blood turned to ice. Valentina examined it with detachment. Naples has the best professionals. Make it look like rival business. And once he's gone? I'm the grieving widow. The will leaves everything to me. The brat gets a trust she can't access until 25, if she survives boarding school. By then I'll be gone. Luca laughed. The fool thinks you love him. He's a means to an end. Money and status. Once I have both, he's disposable. Like that pathetic brat. They toasted. Cosma's phone buzzed. Marco. Tell me. Valentina Rossellini doesn't exist. The real family died out in 1987. Cosma's grip tightened. Her real name is Valentina Moretti. 5 years ago, she married Giacomo Benedetti, wealthy widower in Rome, 8-year-old son. 6 months later, Giacomo was killed in a mugging. She inherited 5 million euros. Disappeared. The boy was sent to relatives, traumatized into selective mutism. Hasn't spoken since. The room spun. Before Benedetti, another widower in Milan. Same pattern. Rich, lonely young child. Dead within a year. She's done this multiple times. She targets grieving widowers with children. Yes. Isolates the kids. Steals everything. Murders the father. Moves on. Cosma stared at the monitor. Valentina laughed, planning his death. After him, Marta would be orphaned. Helpless. Valentina would have everything. And Marta? Dead in boarding school or traumatized into silence like the boy in Rome. His daughter was next. What do you want to do? Cosma watched Valentina drain his whiskey, sit in his father's chair, wear his grandmother's ring. Prepare the dining room. Tomorrow night. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. I want witnesses. Her lawyers, the police, everyone who needs to see what she is. And then? Then I show her what happens when you threaten a Bianchi's child. Valentina kissed Luca and headed upstairs to Cosma's bed. Tomorrow night she would learn that some monsters knew they were monsters. And some were worse. Cosma pulled up another camera. Marta's room. The child slept with the puppy curled against her chest. Sophia sat in the chair beside the bed, keeping watch. He saved the image. Tomorrow he would need to remember what he was fighting for. Not his money. Not his empire. Not even his life. This. A child sleeping safely, guarded by someone who loved her with no agenda, no scheme, no price tag. Tomorrow he would dismantle Valentina piece by piece. Tonight he watched over them both. Marta named him Ombra. Shadow. The puppy followed the child everywhere, a small black guardian. But he was more than a pet. He was a mirror reflecting truths everyone else ignored. Every time Valentina entered a room, Ombra transformed. ears flattened, tail tucked. A low growl as he backed away, eyes fixed on her with primal recognition. Cosmo watched it happen again and again. The pattern never varied. On the third day, Valentina tried to make friends. She knelt, voice sweet. "Come here, little one." Ambra's lips pulled back, showing tiny teeth. When she reached, he snapped, not to attack but to warn. Valentina's mask slipped. Her face twisted with rage before she caught herself. But Cosmo was always watching. That afternoon, when Sofia took Marta to the garden, Valentina found Ambra alone. She kicked at him, not hard enough to injure but enough to send him skittering, yelping. Filthy little rat. The next day she locked him outside in the rain. Cosmo watched the puppy scratch at the door, soaked through. Before he could intervene, Sofia appeared. She scooped up the trembling puppy and carried him to Marta's room. She didn't say a word to Valentina. After that, Sofia stopped sleeping in her own room. She made a bed on the floor beside Marta. Ambra slept between them, a tiny bridge connecting the two people who loved the child most. Cosmo watched these quiet nights. The refugee nanny and the rescued puppy, both outcasts, standing guard. While he, the most powerful man in Milan, hid in a basement watching through screens. His shame deepened. On the fourth night, Marta couldn't sleep. She sat up, pulling Ambra into her lap. Sofia stirred but didn't wake. Marta whispered, voice so quiet Cosmo turned up the audio. "We're the same, Ambra. Nobody wanted us. Mama left me. Your mama left you by that dumpster. We were both alone and scared." Her fingers traced the white patch on his chest. "But Sofia found us. She sees us. Not the bad parts or the scared parts. Just us." The puppy licked her face. Maybe that's what love is. Seeing someone when everyone else looks away. Cosmo's vision blurred. Tears burned in his eyes. His daughter. His 7-year-old daughter was philosophizing about love and abandonment while a puppy kept her company and a nanny slept on the floor to protect her. From the woman he'd almost married. He looked at the other monitor, Valentina asleep in his bed, Luca beside her. Both comfortable, counting money that wasn't theirs. Then back to Marta's room. The child, the nanny, the puppy. All sleeping now, huddled together like refugees from a storm. Tomorrow night he would end this. Tomorrow night he would show them someone was watching. Someone who saw them. Someone who would never look away again. Sofia sat at the small desk in her room. The lamp cast yellow light on paper, and her hand moved slowly, carefully. Cosmo zoomed in. He could see the tension in her shoulders, how she paused to wipe her eyes. His translation software converted the Romanian script. "Dear Marta, if I am gone, remember that you are loved. You are worthy. You are brave. Never let anyone tell you that you are too much or not enough. The puppy is yours, he chose you. Let him remind you that you deserve to be chosen. I wish I could stay, but I would rather leave than let him hurt you more. Forgive me. Ti voglio bene. Sofia. I love you." Sofia folded the letter with shaking hands and tucked it inside her Bible, worn soft from years of desperate prayers. Cosmo stared, his throat closing. This woman. This stranger he'd hired and never bothered to know. This refugee with nothing except a second-hand desk and a worn Bible. This undocumented woman living one deportation threat away from losing everything. She was writing goodbye because she'd rather sacrifice herself than let Marta suffer. While the woman wearing his grandmother's ring was planning to murder them both. Something inside Cosmo cracked wide open. He thought about Juliana leaving, about the walls he'd built, about how he'd convinced himself that loving carefully meant protecting what remained. But Sofia didn't love carefully. She loved recklessly, dangerously, throwing herself between a child and harm without guarantees. She loved the way people were supposed to love. The tears came suddenly, hot and unstoppable. They burned down his face, dripped onto his fists. For the first time since Juliana died, Cosmo Bianchi cried. Not because of betrayal. Not because of stolen money or murder contracts. But because a stranger loved his daughter more than the woman wearing his ring. Because he'd been so blind, so protected that he'd almost let evil destroy the only good thing left. Because while he played at being powerful, Sofia was being brave. He grabbed his phone. "Marco. Boss. I'm coming home. Tonight. Earlier than planned. Move up the confrontation? Yes. Prepare the dining room. Everyone, Valentina, Luca, Sofia, Marta. Lawyers, police, witnesses. All the documentation. Understood. Anything else? Sofia had her head in her hands, crying silently. Get me the best immigration lawyer in Milan. For Sofia? She isn't going anywhere. Not to Romania. Not deportation. I want her status fixed. Citizenship. Whatever makes her untouchable. Safe. He could hear Marco smile. Finally seeing what's been in front of you? Just do it. Cosma stood, legs unsteady after days in the surveillance room. Sofia dried her tears and returned to Marta's room. The child slept, Ombra curled at her feet. Sofia settled into the chair and reached for Marta's hand. Keeping watch. Always keeping watch. Tomorrow night, Cosma would make sure she never had to watch alone again. The gates opened at sunset. Cosma's Mercedes pulled up a full day early. Valentina appeared on the steps, surprise flickering before she smoothed it into delight. Amore. You're home early. She ran to him, playing the perfect fiancé. I missed my family. That evening he announced a dinner. A celebration. The guest list made Valentina's eyes narrow. Luca, Sofia, Marta with Ombra, but she smiled. The dining room gleamed with crystal. Cosma sat at the head, Valentina at his right, Marta at his left with Sofia beside her. Luca sat across, sweating. Marco stood by the door. They ate in suffocating tension. Polite conversation about nothing. When dessert ended, Cosma stood, glass in hand. A toast. To truth. He pressed a button. The screens flickered to life. Valentina and Luca in the gazebo, kissing. Audio. He's gone. Finally gone. Valentina's face drained of color. The next clip, Valentina dragging Marta to the closet. The lock clicking. Papa. Papa, please. Marta's hand found Sofia's under the table. The footage continued, Valentina slapping Marta. Slapping Sofia. The boarding school papers. The murder contract. Target, Cosma Bianchi. Payment, 500,000 euros. Audio from the study, once I have both, he's disposable. Like that brat. Luca bolted. Marco's men blocked every exit. Valentina stood, chair crashing. You had no right. I had every right. This is my home. My daughter. My life you were planning to steal. Valentina's face transformed to venom. That worthless child deserves worse. She's a burden, a mistake, just like her pathetic dead mother. Under the table, Ombra lunged forward, teeth finding Valentina's ankle. She screamed. The puppy released, retreating to Marta's feet, growling. Even the animal knew. Cosma stepped forward, voice dropping to a whisper more terrifying than any shout. You're not Rossellini. You're Moretti. Valentina Moretti. I know about Rome. About Giacomo Benedetti. About the boy who stopped speaking after you destroyed his family. You're a con artist. A murderer. And you'll never hurt another child. He gestured to Marco. Take them. Valentina screamed as Marco's men dragged her away. Luca cried, begging. Their voices faded. Silence fell. Cosma turned to his daughter. Marta sat still, tears streaming, Sofia's arm around her shoulders. He knelt before her, bringing himself to her level. His eyes were wet. I'm sorry, Piccola. I should have seen. I should have protected you. His voice broke. Can you forgive Papa? Marta looked at him for a long moment. Then she launched into his arms, small body shaking. I thought you didn't see me. I thought you didn't care. I see you now. I'll always see you now. I promise. Ombra pressed against both of them, tail wagging. Sofia stood to leave, but Cosma caught her hand. Stay. Please. Your family too. She sat back down, tears running down her face. And for the first time in years, the Bianchi home felt like a home. 6 months later, the Bianchi villa looked different. Not the architecture or the marble floors or the Renaissance paintings. What changed was the life inside it. Marta ran through the halls without fear, Ombra at her heels, now grown into a protective shepherd who still slept at the foot of her bed every night. Her laughter echoed through rooms that had been silent too long, and when she called, "Papa," Cosma dropped everything to answer. Sophia became more than the nanny. She became Marta's guardian and the heart that kept the household beating with warmth instead of just running like clockwork. Her immigration papers came through in record time, along with a salary that made her cry and a title that made her family chief of household and Marta's legal guardian should anything happen to Cosma. She never had to write another goodbye letter. As for Valentina and Luca, the evidence Cosma had gathered led police to 3 other mysterious deaths in wealthy Italian families. The grieving widows who'd inherited millions. The traumatized children who'd been shipped away or silenced. The pattern was undeniable. Valentina Moretti would spend the rest of her life in prison, and Luca would spend his counting the years beside her. So what do you think? Could you have watched the person you loved betray not just you but your child and stayed calm enough to gather evidence instead of acting on rage? Would you have seen the quiet hero standing right in front of you? The one person who loved your child with no agenda, no conditions, no price tag? This story reminds us that evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it wears designer clothes and expensive perfume. Sometimes it kisses you goodnight while planning your murder. And sometimes the people we overlook, the nannies, the refugees, the street dogs nobody wanted, are the ones with the purest hearts. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think twice about who you're overlooking in your own life, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Every like tells me you want more stories that matter, stories about real courage, real love, and real redemption. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story that will make you feel something. Because in a world full of noise, we need more stories about people who choose kindness even when it costs them everything. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone who's been overlooked. Maybe someone who's questioning whether their instincts about a person are right. Maybe someone who needs to be reminded that small acts of protection and love matter more than grand gestures. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had a moment where an animal or a child saw through someone before you did? Have you ever been the Sophia in someone's life? The person standing guard when no one else noticed? Tell me your story. I read every single comment. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring.